This is my 100% honest update review video of the most recent update. And honestly, we're not going to even talk about the most recent update that much. We're mostly only going to talk about Buffies. It's funny because when I started writing notes for this video, one of the first things I wanted to say was, hey, I'm sorry if you wanted me to just hate on Buffies because that's not what I'm going to do. And then I wrote 13 pages of notes, almost all hating on Buffies. So I guess I shouldn't say that. If you want me to hate on Buffies, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. But I'm really conflicted here because on paper, I actually really like Buffies. If we just ignore the claw machine and we ignore the PowerPoints side of things, I really like them. I've been hoping that Brawl Stars would add something for long-time endgame players like me who have been playing for years and want something to change within the game, like core gameplay. I have been craving more depth and strategy in Brawl Stars and for something to increase the amount of skill expression available in the game. I've been wishing that they would take the time to revamp old brawlers so that they can keep up with new brawlers, especially all of the new assassins. I swear, like there's so many brawlers that just suck now. Anyway, whatever. I've been dreaming for Brawl Stars to add a new feature that would make playing every single day more rewarding and more exciting. Also, now that every brawler has a hypercharge, like the game needs more power progression. It just does. Without it, there are going to be some players who are going to reach their max out account and they're just going to lose interest. And I know that that's not everybody, and I understand that there are arguments against that, but it's true. When you max out your account, it's kind of like you just log in and you play every day for trophies. I know that's not how everybody views it, but there are people that are like that. And I actually really like Buffies on paper for all of those reasons. And you know what? I know that there are some people that don't like the aimable gadget. I love the aimable gadget. I think it's so awesome. And all these are problems that they do need to solve. And the thing is that Buffies do solve these problems for players who can unlock them and for the players that it actually makes sense to unlock them. And that's the key thing here, because the truth is, because of their cost and how you unlock them, it prevents the vast majority of players from feeling like Buffies are actually worth it. And after having experienced Buffies in the live game, I think that Supercell have missed the mark with them, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm gonna hate on Buffies for quite a bit of this video, which makes me sad, but it's not all bad. I'm actually still very excited about Buffies. I still have a lot of positive things to say about Buffies, so just bear with me so I can get all of my thoughts out there. You might want to grab some popcorn because this is gonna be a long one. First thing I want to talk about though is actually not Buffy related at all. New brawlers being released without their hypercharges. Supercell, if you were listening, please reconsider. It is so ridiculous. It feels so ridiculous that a brawler is now released without their whole kit. Like, I think that, yeah, oh my gosh, like we have learned so many times in the past that if you release a brawler that is just on average weaker than most brawlers, that it just kills the hype for that brawler and it takes that brawler a long time to recover, and it just like it's just not good. It's not good to release weak brawlers into the game. We've learned that, yeah, you don't want them to be game-breakingly strong or way too OP, but we've learned that the best way for brawlers to do well and for people to be excited about new brawlers is for them to be slightly on the strong side. You cannot expect us to enjoy new brawlers when they are missing their kit, when they are missing their hypercharges, because they're going to be, on average, if you just look at their kits, they're going to be weaker on average. Okay, now there's a couple of arguments for Brawl Stars actually releasing new brawlers without their hypercharges. One of them being, oh well, it gives us a little bit, or the Brawl Stars team, a little bit more time to kind of like see how the players actually interact with the brawler and to really come up with a really excellent hypercharge that works for their kit in a way that like just makes sense and is good and is best for the game. I understand that, but then we also got Gigi's hypercharge, which just does damage on the teleport in. That's not like crazy innovative. Like you can't tell me that they couldn't have thought about that sooner. And maybe they had other ideas and they were like, oh, we don't like these ideas, we'll just go with this. Cool, whatever. Anyway, whatever. I can understand that point. I can get it. Do I like it? No, I don't like it, but I understand it. The other argument for releasing hypercharges later is that they can kind of like revitalize a new brawler. Like each new brawler essentially gets 2 hype moments instead of 1. 1 hype moment when they first come out, and then 1 hype moment when they get their hypercharge. And I think that that's also just not great. It just feels dumb. It's like, why are you sacrificing a brawler's kit and trying to pretend like they are, you know, re-exciting now that they now have their hypercharge? No, if you want to make waves, waves, make one big wave. Don't make two tiny splashes, right? If you release a brawler weak, that's a small splash. And then if you add their hypercharge later, that's another small splash. Small splashes don't move needles. Nobody cares about small splashes. We like big hype waves. Release one full new brawler that is exciting as they are, that we can be excited about. Their kit's complete. That's a big wave. That's a hype moment. Go for hype moments. Don't go for small splashes, okay? Anyway, sorry. This is my rant. I think that I have mentioned this so many times in so many different videos, but I just have to mention it again because new brawlers, they need their full kits. They need their full kits. Honestly, I think the biggest thing, and I'm not calling the Brawl Stars team lazy. I am not. But on the outside, it looks like the Brawl Stars team is lazy. I'm not saying that they are, because I don't think that they are. I think this is a deliberate choice that they made to follow through. But if you release a brawler that's not fully finished, it looks lazy. That's just the truth. It's just the truth. And you have to avoid stuff like this. Players' perception of the dev team matters. Whether or not it was a lazy decision, it looks lazy. And you can't have your players thinking that you're lazy. You just can't, because it devalues the players' trust in you and it makes them think that you don't care about the game. I know that's not true. You know that that's not true. But the lot of players that just see that you release an unfinished brawler, they don't know that that's true. They don't care. They think is lazy. Okay, sorry. I got way too heated up about that, and we haven't even talked about Buffies. So let's talk about Buffies. But before we talk about Buffies, we have to talk about something else, and that is that Brawl Stars is not doing great. Well, okay, it's actually doing pretty good, but Brawl Stars is in trouble, okay? This is Brawl Stars Google Trends tracker for all the worldwide on all categories for the past 5 years. So this was like Brawl Stars beta, and then they did global launch, and then it got most hype in 2020, and then since 2020, there was a massive decrease in interest in the game until about, end of, 2023 kind of. And this is a graph starting from January 2023. So decrease in interest, and then we had these hype moments. And here's what's happened. Just very brief history, and this is important because it matters for what we're going to talk about here. What got Brawl Stars to blow up here? There's a lot of different things that people could say that got Brawl Stars to really blow up, but they were limited special events that were hype. They would release a new awesome limit event and people loved it. It was awesome. And then what they did was they'd be like, hey, let's one up ourselves. Let's make the next big event awesome and hype. And then they would one up themselves. And then they were like, okay, well, let's do the next big event awesome and hype. And then they one up themselves and it was awesome. And we had this good, awesome, massive growth into, April 2024. And I don't know this for sure, but it genuinely felt like Brawl Stars was like, hey, what if we keep doing these collabs and special events, but what if we see if we can maintain the hype without one-upping ourselves? In fact, let's actually give less resources and see if people just like the hype and see if that keeps people playing Brawl Stars. I didn't keep track of all of the amount of resources and stuff like that they gave out during these special events, but to me, it felt like they decreased the amount of hype, awesome rewards that they were giving throughout the event. Well, and guess what? They decreased resources, perhaps. I don't know. That's my perception. Either way, the hype definitely went down. It kind of lost its appeal. And, then we saw decreased interest. And then this one, less of a peak because decreased interest. I don't remember what happened around here. But anyway, the point is we had a big, awesome, massive spike. I'm sure you guys can tell me. I could look it up if I really cared. But the thing is that after that massive spike, people didn't stick around because it genuinely felt like the hype moments were less and less and less. It, to me, felt like the collabs and stuff like that, they stopped caring about giving awesome hype, massive amounts of resources. And why they decided to do that, I don't know. And I could be wrong. It just really felt like the hype from these special events started to die down. And there's a couple of reasons why they couldn't continue to just one up themselves. If they continue to one up themselves, eventually what they would essentially be reaching is, hey, let's give everybody a free maxed out account. Like if you one up yourself, eventually that's what's going to happen. Like the only way for you to give it or to one up yourself eventually is to give out free max accounts. And they obviously can't do that. That would be a massive way for them to shoot themselves in the foot. Revenue would just decrease. What's the point of spending money on a game if you already have everything, right? You can't do that. They couldn't continue forever to one up themselves unless there is a massive hole of resources that needs to be filled, right? And because they couldn't continue to one up themselves, hype events were no longer hype. It kind of just became the norm, and now we've kind of like flatlined here. And what you'll notice here is that you'll actually see that, right here, we're at like 21 8% of the hypest moment back here. Well, back before the hypest moment, we were at 7%. So we're still actually significantly better off. At least Brawl Stars is doing significantly better off in terms of total search terms compared to what it was before all these big hype moments. So we're not completely back to where we were. However, I will say one thing. On YouTube, views are actually significantly worse than they were way back then. And there's a lot of different reasons for why things are different on YouTube, but essentially during this time period, they continued to do these big hype events that were fun and exciting, but didn't really add massive changes to the game. I'm not saying they didn't add massive changes to the game, because there were definitely some updates that added things to the game, but there was so much effort and focus and put onto these limited special events and stuff like that that didn't actually matter long term, that the game has essentially gotten to a point where like long-term players who've been playing for a while have been starved for content actually worth playing, for actual changes. And it's been so long of us getting updates that just don't give us something exciting. And this is why I have been like, oh man, I really want something exciting for the long-term players. Obviously, I'm a YouTuber, right? I care about all this stuff, and I care about the long-term players that are here for, you know, to watch YouTube content. That's what I care about, right? Obviously. But Brawl Stars realized they didn't have the economy to keep these hype events up in terms of progression. And I don't know if they actually scaled down how many resources they were giving out for free, but it felt like they at least tried to settle for like the least viable product for special events and collabs. And what I mean by least viable product is, I mean, they were trying to give as few resources as possible while also trying to maintain hype with flashy color and animations. And we love the flashy color, we love the animations, but here's the deal. All of the flashy, like limited events and stuff like that, those are kind of like desserts, right? They taste good, they're sweet, they make you feel happy for a short period of time. And then you have the sugar crash and you burn out, and it makes the game feeling like it's pointless and it's not actually worth it. We need more meats and potatoes. We need the good food that's going to sustain us. We need updates that actually make the game feel like a game worth playing. And I felt like the hype died. So I don't know what their plan was, but this is what it felt like was happening. Interest in Brawl Stars declined as hype died. It felt like the game didn't really provide real substance to the core gameplay and had too few changes in comparison to all the temporary and limited events and stuff like that. So then what happened is long-term dedicated players really got burnt out, felt neglected, and then they replaced masteries with records, which just killed interest in Brawl Stars, at least on YouTube. And it might not have happened immediately, but that's where, oh man, YouTube is where the hardcores exist. You don't have to be a hardcore player to watch YouTube content for Brawl Stars, but the people who watch YouTube content on Brawl Stars are hardcore players. They are the people who care about the game the most. And the fact that there are tons of creators who are actively making mastery videos on YouTube and we're pulling really good viewership, that suggests that masteries were loved by the hardcore players, not just by the YouTubers who are making the videos, but by the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people who were actually watching mastery videos because they were interesting. And then Supercell came in and they were just like, oh yeah, well, this isn't working for the casual players, so we're just gonna kill this. It was a bad move. It was a terrible move. I genuinely think it was a mistake. I think that Supercell would be praised by the hardcore long-term players if they just came back with masteries and revamped them to make them better for casual players. There's a whole lot of argument. I mean, the argument was that there was giving too many free resources and that the hardcore or the casual players weren't interacting with it very much. Well, guess what? I completely forgot about records. I'm a hardcore player, and I like one of the biggest pieces of feedback on a lot of my free-to-play episodes is like, Kairos, you keep on forgetting to unlock your records. And I'm like, oh man, I forgot again. It's been weeks. They're not easily findable. Masteries were anyway, whatever. Doesn't matter. We don't need to talk about masteries too much. But the point is that Brawl Stars straight up killed any interest in those videos for records, which are just worse. And then they took the progression that you would be able to get from records and they added it to the Brawl Pass so that every single time a new brawler gets released, we get the progression anyway, and it's easier to get the progression. So anyway, whatever. The point is, the hardcore and dedicated players have been feeling neglected for way too long. We need a big change to the core gameplay, in my opinion, and whether or not you like Buffies, you can't deny the fact that their concept is a solution to this problem. They change Brawl Stars' core gameplay. They change strategy in the game. They add depth to brawler kits. And I understand that there are arguments against all of these points that I just barely mentioned, but the point is, on paper, Buffies fix a lot of problems that Brawl Stars is facing right now if they are done right. They change every brawler's kit, and when balanced and designed right, they should add more strategic depth and skill expression in the game. They should. They should also provide value to us as hardcore long-term players, and they provide way more value than something like adding just a straight up power 12 into the game. And because they cost a lot, they create a massive need for resources, which would allow Supercell to give more resources for hype events that would allow them to one-up themselves over and over and over again for these limited events to just be more and more exciting, because they can give us more free resources without actually ruining the game's economy. If they were to do that, maybe we would be able to see a good resurgence like we saw in 2023 and 2024 of big, massive hype events that one-up each other and build up the hype and get everybody excited for the game, because Brawl Stars is seemingly giving out massive amounts of resources. I don't know if this is their plan. It just makes sense to me. They did it once before. It worked before. They realized they couldn't continue doing it, so they tried to set up a plan for them to be able to do it. I think. I don't know. I hope that's what they're doing. Anyway, but Buffies are also beneficial because it allows them to monetize Buffies, which increases revenue, and that should help lead to better updates for the future of Brawl Stars or the future of Supercell games. It could allow them to do some really cool stuff with the game. I'm not saying that Brawl Stars did Buffies perfectly, because I don't think they did, and I can't promise you that they will follow through on making Buffies an excellent addition to the game, but I'm just trying to point out how Buffies could be an excellent addition to the game if they were done right on paper. And that's why there are so many content creators who are so excited about Buffies. And that's why me, not just as a well, honestly, okay, as a content creator, I care way more about what the general community thinks about updates than I do about the actual content. Well, as a content creator, okay? And when I make these 100% honest review videos, I think it's important for me to distinguish between me being a content creator, me being a player, and me being me, because I'm not going to agree with everything that everybody says, right? As a content creator, all I care about is views. I want as many people to love Brawl Stars and want to watch content on YouTube as much as possible. That's all I care about as a content creator. As a gamer, I care about the game actually being fun, and I want that, right? And as somebody who loves Brawl Stars, this is the third person I didn't talk about. As somebody who loves Brawl Stars, I want Brawl Stars to be the game that I enjoy having fun. And I also want it to be the game that I enjoy making content on. And the thing is I can guarantee you, it doesn't matter how good an update is for monetization for Supercell. I know that I have creator code. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care about the game being heavily monetized. I genuinely don't. I don't want Buffies to be ridiculously expensive. Not if it's going to result in everybody thinking the game is super pay to win and makes them want to quit the game because it doesn't feel worth it to actually play, because that is going to kill my revenue, because it's going to stop people from actually playing the game, which is bad for Brawl Stars and is going to make people use creator code less. It's also going to reduce my other revenue sources, because guess what? It means that I get fewer views. And that means that I can't charge sponsors as much as I used to be able to do. And I'm not able to do that. Like, these numbers are pretty much like this was the year, man, dude. I could charge sponsors a lot of money, and I pulled a lot of revenue this year, and it was awesome. And now I'm at roughly like a third of what I was doing this last year. And I'm actually like at a half of what I was able to do here. Like, here, the views were really hype. Yeah, overall Brawl Stars wasn't doing great overall, but on YouTube, the hardcore viewers, man, I was getting way more views. I was getting double the views here than I am right now. So as a YouTuber, I'm actually really upset with where the game is at, and I was hoping that Buffies would be good for this. Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying right now. I wrote 13 pages of notes for this video, and when I say notes, I mean notes. I don't mean like a full script, though some of this video I do have full scripted thoughts for that I've taken the time to write out because I wanted to say things specifically. But I have so many things that I'm going off script right now. I'm just talking, and I haven't been happy with where Brawl Stars is at least as a YouTuber. And as a gamer, a long-term Brawl Stars player, I also haven't been excited with where the game was at, and that mostly has to do with the game being stale. And we'll actually talk about how hypercharges and hypercharges weren't handled the way that I would have liked them to have been, and I think that they need to handle Buffies better than hypercharges. Okay, wow, sorry. Now I'm getting a little all over the place. Let's talk about some of the problems with Buffies. One of my biggest frustrations with hypercharges, and I know I said we would just talk about Buffies, but we need to talk about hypercharges because Buffies are essentially like the same thing, right? In the sense that we are going to be having these Buffies being released in a slow trickle. Like, here's the thing. There are a lot of reasons for Brawl Stars to release Buffies for 6 brawlers at a time like they did with Hypercharges. Good development takes time, and you want each Buffy to be as good as it possibly can be, and you want something new and exciting to be added to the game with every single update. And the developers are going to obviously want to be able to adapt future Buffies based off of the feedback that they get from the previous Buffies. Like right now, there's a ton of feedback already out in the community regarding the current Buffies that we got that is good for the team to hear so that they can make future Buffies better. If they just released a Buffy for every single brawler in the game, they wouldn't have that time to be able to reiterate and adapt and make Buffies the best that they possibly could be and a long-term good addition. There's just a lot of good reasons for them to release them in smaller batches, and I don't want to talk about that too long because I want to talk about reasons why I don't like that they're doing it this way. I think that's more important, but I just want people to understand. I understand why they're doing it. Also, it just would take too much time. Can you imagine if they had like, you know, let's say they have like 6 to 10 developers or whatever, and their whole job is to just make Buffies for the next 2 years. And that is all they do, but we never see any of the benefit from that. And then let's just say they release Buffy and everybody like, this is awful. I hate this. This is terrible. You should have scrapped like, it just would have been bad for them to just I don't know. It would have been a super hype update like, hey, every brawler has Buffies. This is crazy. Whatever. That would have been cool. But anyway, yeah. This is not the way they're doing it. But my biggest thing with Buffies is that they need to do a better job than what they did with Hypercharges, okay? And a lot of the community was very frustrated with how they did Hypercharges. It created a very volatile experience for players. And if Brawl Stars handles Buffies the same way that they handled Hypercharges, it's going to be the exact same thing. Here's the thing, though. I don't think doing what they did with Hypercharges is good enough. I just don't, because it was not a good experience with Hypercharges. The slow drip of Hypercharges left a lot of players just really feeling frustrated with the game, including myself. Every single update, most brawlers with new abilities would all of a sudden become super broken. The whole meta is all over the place. Everything feels off balance. Brawlers that used to be good are bad. Brawlers that are bad are now all of a sudden good. It felt really volatile. And then the thing is that like Supercell has learned a lot from the past that it's not really a great idea to do knee-jerk reaction to balance changes. Because sometimes you need the dust to settle a little bit. Like communities typically, on average, just over exaggerate everything. They respond in such an exaggerated way. And it's a good idea to let the community kind of like simmer down and be like, oh, you know what, maybe this brawler is not actually that super strong. Or, hey, you know what, this brawler is really strong, but there are actually some good counters that you can play. Like it takes a little bit of time for us to figure out which brawlers are like new abilities are actually like really, really broken, right? So it's a good thing for Supercell not to do knee-jerk reactions. But the problem is that they just took way too long to rebalance all of the Hypercharges. It just took way too long. We were left with metas that were just so incredibly frustrating for months at a time. Sometimes 2 months. Two months was like the pretty common thing. Every now and then we'd have like a mid-season balance change that was like pretty good. But sometimes they would nerf a Hypercharge in 2 months. And then 2 months later, they would be like, oh, we need to nerf it again. And then another 2 months later, they're like, oh, this ability is still way too strong. That's 6 months of abilities that are broken for way too long that I just think need to be addressed much faster. And eventually they were able to rebalance all the Hypercharges in a way that like they weren't as crazy broken and things felt a lot better. And I know that some people will say they never felt better, Kairos. What are you talking about? Well, in the most recent Brawl Stars World Championship, we saw the most varied competitive meta that we've ever seen. There were more brawlers played and banned in the most recent Brawl Stars World Championship than ever before. And there were only a small handful of brawlers that actually weren't played in comparison to all of them. So yeah, balanced or not, I don't know. If we're looking at competitive gameplay, it's one of the most balanced metas that we've ever seen. That's very different depending on where you are at in trophies or in ranked or whatever, because there are definitely some brawlers that are just way too strong. But the point is it's a very, very balanced meta in comparison to Brawl Stars' past. Now that they've had like 3 years or 2 years, sorry, to rebalance all the Hypercharges in a way that make them actually really good. But the whole time it was like this big, massive upswing of emotions with every new ability. It's like new abilities are now strong. People buy them and then they get nerfed 2 months too late, right? It was just so volatile. It was incredibly frustrating and I got sick of it. And when every single Hypercharge came out, it was kind of like, oh, okay. I get to breathe. Ooh. It felt good. It felt good. Every brawler is good now and every kit is complete. That's how it felt to me. It really did. It really felt like that. And then they're like, okay, we're going to do the same thing with Buffies. And the meta's going to be all over the place and it's going to be crazy and it's just going to be frustrating again. You have to do better than that, Supercell. You really do have to do that. And I genuinely feel like you need to publicly like commit to doing a better job with Buffies than you did with Hypercharges, because the Hypercharge experience, Hypercharges were hype. I loved them, but the experience was volatile and frustrating and made me feel like I had this love-hate relationship with every single balance change, because the balance changes were just way too far and few in between. I felt like I was getting emotional whiplash, and I feel like the community was as well. And it's also just really frustrating to have some brawlers just not be good to compete against because their kit isn't complete yet. Like, it took so long for Griff to finally get his Hypercharge, and yeah, I played some Griff before he ever got his Hypercharge, and he was okay, but as a Griff main, like, it was frustrating to feel like I couldn't really play my favorite brawler because he was missing an ability. And I just felt like it was just frustrating. Honestly, I genuinely feel like what Supercell needs to do is they have to have some mid-season balance changes. And it doesn't have to be massive balance changes. They could just like, hey, release an update, and then 2 weeks later, they could be like, hey, we're just gonna quickly tone down some of the most egregious abilities or whatever, you know, and some of the weakest ones. It doesn't have to be every single brawler. This isn't a complete balance change. We can do complete balance changes every 2 months like normal, but you know, now that we see that these abilities are clearly way too strong, let's just tone them down a little bit. And that would just feel less frustrating as well for anybody who is purchasing Hypercharges and stuff like that, because it's really frustrating to purchase a Hypercharge for it to be really good for a couple of months and then for it to get nerfed and be like, my resources were wasted. But if people know, hey, there's a chance that the new Hyperchargers are going to get nerfed in a couple of weeks, then it gives them a couple of weeks to be like, okay, let's just wait and see. And then, oh, this one didn't get buffed or nerfed or whatever, then okay, I can go and purchase it. It makes you feel a little more confident as a spender to be able to buy the Hypercharges and whatnot that you want. The problem is with Buffies, though, is that they're all random, and like you might not even get the ones that you want, but that's another discussion. We'll talk about that. What's frustrating here, though, is that it's going to be way too long before every brawler has their complete kit, before they all have all of their Buffies, right? If they do 6 brawlers every 2 months, that means almost 3 years for every existing brawler to get their Buffies. But with us getting a new brawler every month, it will take just over 4 years before every existing brawler and future brawler has their Buffies. That's 49 months specifically, and that is a massive transitionary period. I genuinely think they have to do better than Hypercharges with Buffies. They just have to, because otherwise it's just not going to be great. People are sick of having this emotional whiplash with the balance changes being all over the place. They really are. I genuinely feel like Brawl Stars needs to do better. They need to release more Buffies each update, and they also need to rebalance them quicker each update. For them to release, like, let's just say, here's the thing. When they released 6 Hypercharges an update, that was 6 abilities that they added with each update. That's it. If they release Buffies for 6 Brawlers each update, that's 30 new abilities plus reworks to all of those Brawlers each update, because you have a Hypercharge Buffy, you have a gadget Buffy that impacts 2 gadgets, you have a star power Buffy that also impacts 2 star powers, and then you also have to add any rebalances. And I'm not going to count rebalances, but that's 5 ability changes for every brawler. That comes out to 30 new abilities with just 6 brawler Buffies each update. I mean, that's hard. Buffies are already changing more about Brawl Stars than Hypercharges did, because there are just so many changes to consider. But 4 years. 4 years. It took them 2 years to add all the Hypercharges into the game. That's twice as long. I just don't know if I want to continually experience the emotional whiplash of all the balance changes and all the new abilities for 4 years. I don't. There's a really big part of me. I genuinely would love it if they would just add Buffies so much faster, even if they weren't all as great or whatever, and then took the time to rebalance them all. I know that that's less exciting, and I know that the Brawl Stars team is listening to that and probably being like, man, but that just means that like we can't continually release new content every single update. Like, I know, I get that, but the emotional whiplash of all the balance changes just feels exhausting, and I don't want hardcore players to feel exhausted by your game. I want them to feel excited about them. Okay, we've already talked a lot, and I haven't even talked about the biggest pain point that everybody is talking about and that's their cost, okay? And the cost has two parts to it. It's just how expensive they are total, and then also the currencies that you have to spend to buy them total. And okay, I'm gonna get some hate for part of this. I don't actually think how expensive they are is actually a big problem, okay? It's the currency that they chose, the 2,000 power points, that is the big problem. So just hear me out here, okay? If you were to gem resources to buy a hypercharge, not at a discount, not the 79 gems, right? We're just talking about gemming the resources to buy a hypercharge. It would cost you 500 gems. 500 gems for 5,000 coins, right? And if you were to gem the resources to buy a Buffy, again, not at a discount, just straight up gem the power points and coins you need, it would cost 300 gems. 300 gems for Buffies, 500 gems for hypercharges. Buffies are less expensive than hypercharges are. And that is just for one Buffy, and you need 3 Buffies to max out a brawler, and it will be a random Buffy rather than a direct purchase, but 300 gems is less than 500 gems that it would cost to buy the hypercharge. So gem-wise, a Buffy costs less than a hypercharge, and in truth, I don't think that the actual price point is the huge problem here. Now, these gem costs, whatever, they're not like really equivalent because you can gem them for different costs, right? Gadget Buffies can be gemmed for 149 gems. Star Buffies can be gemmed for 179 gems. So Hyper Buffies can be gemmed for 199 gems. That comes out to 527 gems to gem all 3 Buffies on one brawler, and you do get to choose those Buffies in that case. 527 gems, that's only 27 gems more than the 500 gems it would cost for you to get the hypercharge. And I think that the Buffies provide more value than hypercharges. Now, if you want to get technical, yeah, you can buy 5,000 coins with gems at a cheaper cost by buying coin packs in the shop, but I don't want to get too technical here. It's just the point is that Buffies are cheaper to buy resource-wise than hypercharges are. And a good way for me to say this, like why I think the cost isn't actually that crazy and that out of touch, is the fact that let's just pretend that PowerPoints didn't exist. And instead, PowerPoints, like one PowerPoint just translated into one coin, because that's what Supercell is doing now with how much you can purchase PowerPoints with gems. That would mean that you would be able to buy one Buffy for 3,000 coins, which isn't too awful. It's not great, but 3,000 coins for a Buffy is within the realm of what I would call like stomachable, right? It's not so far out of touch that I would be like, man, Supercell's crazy. It's like within the realm of like, okay, that's expensive. It's a lot. 3,000 coins for a Buffy. I can accept that. It still sounds too expensive, but it's something I can stomach the cost on. So in my opinion, the cost for Buffies, genuinely, it just isn't the problem. Are they expensive? Yes, but I can handle that. The real problem is the currency cost, primarily the 2,000 power points that it requires for you to purchase one Buffy. Like, let's just ignore the 1,000 coins, 2,000 power points for a Buffy. So for every brawler, you have to add 6,000 total power points to max out a brawler. It costs less than 4,000 power points to max out a brawler. So you're more than doubling. You're a little less than doubling the cost to max out. No. You are almost doubling the cost to max out a brawler in terms of like power points, right? I mean, who has stacks of power points just sitting around? There's one type of player, maxed out players. And that is it. Everyone else is starved for power points if they have been efficient with how they spend their coins to buy gadgets, star powers, and hypercharges. Until you have every brawler at power 11. Power points is the bottleneck resource for any player who is spending their coins somewhat efficiently. And that is because the game's economy has been balanced around power points providing 2 times the value as coins. And this is true. This has been true ever since power points were first added into the game and were required to upgrade your brawlers. Power points have always been double the cost of coins. 1 power point for 2 coins. That's always how it's been until a couple of years ago when they removed any abilities for you to be able to convert them. And then this most recent update when they just decided, hey, guess what? It's no longer double the cost. They're just equal to coins. And there have been multiple examples of players being able to convert power points to coins at a rate of 2 coins for every 1 power point in the past. Lots of different types of ways so that you could do it. Some required really gimmicky, janky ways for you to, use the club shop and all sorts of crazy things. If you guys remember, you remember. If you don't, cool, whatever. It's been a couple of years since you could convert them in any sort of way, but the game's economy has been balanced around this conversion, originally from the ground up, okay? even if you can't convert them now, that's just how the game has been built. And that is how the amount of resources that we get in the Brawl Pass has been balanced around. And I know that the Brawl Stars developers who are listening to this video are like, well, Kairos, it's not exactly like that because like game economy is a lot more confusing than that. And I understand that, but to players don't know that. They don't care. They just like what makes sense. And right now it doesn't make sense because it feels like the game has been balanced around, hey, this is how many power points you get, and you get them roughly half as frequently as you get coins. That's not exact, but you get the idea. That's just how it feels, right? And with this update, Supercell decided that power points now cost just as much as 1 coin, which means that everyone who has ever gemmed power points in the past couple of years pretty much just got screwed over with no compensation, because that includes progression offers in the shop for power points. And that's actually really not cool. I don't like that. Paying customers shouldn't have the value of their past purchases cut in half just because they say, oh yeah, well, power points used to be provide that much value, but they are half as valuable as they used to be. And honestly, I didn't really think about this until I started writing this part of the script for this video, or writing my thoughts here. But the more I think about it, the more upset about it I get. But I can get over that, because every single time I have purchased power points in the past, I have bought them for progressing brawlers at the current value that they were, not because of how their value compared to coins. That didn't matter. All I cared about was, hey, I need power points to upgrade my brawlers, so I will buy power points now. And I purchased them at the rate that I felt comfortable with at the time. So I can move past that. What I can't get over, though, what I am really struggling to move past Supercell, is that they have decided that power points provide the same value as coins, but it's not like they suddenly doubled the amount of power points we're getting from every source, right? Hey, the value of power points are half as valuable as they used to be, but we're not going to give you double the power points than you used to get, because that would just make sense, right? And that makes the cost for Buffies feel like they weren't for any player other than maxed out players who have spare power points to spare. Literally, it just feels like 99% of the players, it feels like the cost for Buffies were just only considered for the top 1% of players, and the 99% of the players don't matter. That's what it feels like, because 99% of the players don't have power points to spend on Buffies, because not all their brawlers are maxed out. And it would be one thing if Brawl Stars said, hey, this is a feature for max out players. It's not for everybody. We specifically wanted to make Buffies for max out players, the people who've been playing for the longest. This is for them. If Brawl Stars went and said that and they did that, then it'd be like, okay, well, that sucks. The 99% of the players that can't afford Buffies, they'd be like, man, that sucks that it's not for me, that I feel left like I'm missing out, and that would be frustrating. But Brawl Stars didn't say that. They're marketing Buffies as if they're for everybody. Like they're, because I feel like it would be stupid for them to create them for only 1% of the players, but it genuinely feels like they're not for 99% of the players, because the only people who can afford them are people who are already maxed out. Even on my free-to-play account, it does not make sense for me to buy Buffies, because I will get more value out of upgrading my brawlers to power 11 than I would out of getting Buffies for my brawlers. It just doesn't make sense. I'll gain more power that way, which is so boring and frustrating, and just feels like, oh, they're releasing new updates. Well, I don't care about the new Buffies. I don't care about them because they're not for me, and I'm not going to be able to access them for another year until all of my brawlers are at power 11 anyway. So like, Supercell releases new Buffies, boring. They're not for me. New update comes back. They're like, new brawler. Okay, cool, hype. New collab. Okay, hype. New feature. Okay, hype. Buffies. I don't care because they're not for me. They're inaccessible, and it's just going to make the game more aggravating and frustrating for me as a free-to-play player whenever I'm facing somebody that does have Buffies who has either played longer than me or spent more money on the game. And I get that. I like rewarding long-term players, but it just feels like it's not for most players. And to everybody other than the max out players, it just feels like the 2,000 PowerPoint cost is just out of touch. It does. Not the total cost. Let's just say it only costs 3,000 coins for a Buffy. That doesn't feel crazy out of touch, but 2,000 power points, that feels out of touch. Honestly, I just really feel like you should be able to choose to buy Buffies with either coins or power points. You know what? Even if it like 3,000 coins or 3,000 power points, cool, whatever. I was talking with Lex. Lex actually had this really great idea where it's like a little slider, right? And you can kind of choose like, okay, the total cost is 3,000 of something, and you have to spend some power points and you have to spend some coins, but you get to like do a sliding scale. Like let's say that bare minimum you have to spend 500 power points for a Buffy, and you could then, you know, supplement the cost with 2,500 coins. You could do that. You just have this sliding scale. You choose how many power points, how many coins, and then when you hit it, tap it, boom. Those are the resources that you spend. I really like Lex's slider idea where you get to choose that. But the team just decided that something that I don't love, and that is they decided to tie it to both coins and power points. And from a design perspective, I get why they would do this. There's this design principle in game design called currency tension. And currency tension is a very important design choice because it makes spending resources an interesting aspect of the game. But if you're gonna enforce some sort of currency tension, you've got to price them in a way that like actually makes sense for players, that makes the cost or whether or not you spend the currency actually interesting. And right now, it's not interesting. It's, oh, I have brawlers to max out. That means that I don't buy Buffies. So I spend power points on the brawlers. You want the cost of the currency to actually make sense. 2,000 power points and 1,000 coins doesn't make sense to anyone who isn't max out. So either Brawl Stars decided that Buffies just aren't a feature for most players, or they just completely missed the mark, or they did all of this with the intention of adding more power points into the game in the future with special events or future buffs. And if that is the case, cool, I guess. But like, why would you let the community have this explosive like anger, frustration over Buffies if you knew you were going to just eventually buff it? Like, why not just get ahead of the curve, right? Why not, right? And I don't know that this is what they're gonna do. It just kind of feels like they're kind of playing mind games with the community. Like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make PowerPoints just crazy rare. Nobody's going to have enough for it. And then they're going to get really angry and frustrated. And then we'll come back and we're going to save the day and say, oh, hey, sorry guys, we didn't know you felt this way. We're going to fix that now by adding more PowerPoints into the game for you. And then the community is going to love us because we fixed it for them. Man, that's one way to get them to love us, right? That is a terrible way to get anybody to love you. That is the worst way for you to handle any type of a relationship. Can you imagine doing that to like a spouse or something like that? Like, I'm going to purposefully treat my spouse mean and angry so that when I say sorry and I start treating her nice, then she's gonna love me more. No, that is like the definition of an abusive relationship. It's like, no, that's manipulation. We don't like being manipulated. I'm not saying that Brawl Stars is doing this. It just feels like they're doing this. If they intended to do it, shame on you. Genuinely, Supercell, don't do that. If they didn't intend to it, okay, you messed up. Own up to it, apologize, and and don't do it again. Because an apology where you don't actually change your actions is useless to us. We don't care. We don't care. Just be better. Form a good, positive relationship with us based off of mutual respect. That means that if Buffies are only for maxed out players, tell us and price it in a way that actually makes sense for max players. Because even free-to-play players, or even free-to-play max out players, will only barely be able to keep up with the PowerPoint requirement of Buffies based off of how many PowerPoints my free-to-play account has earned in the last 3 years. I'll talk about that later. But don't expect the community to thank you for fixing this massive economy problem by buffing PowerPoint progression later when you knew that you had created a problem that needed solving. It's not a healthy way to handle any type of relationship, and your players will only take so much abuse before they start feeling like you don't actually care about their existing players, and instead you only care about future players and you only care about spenders. And I understand that maybe to some extent that is true. You do have to care about your spenders and your future players, but there are so many great games out there that treat their players with respect, and players in Brawl Stars will leave Brawl Stars if they feel like they can get more respect in an actual healthy relationship later on. They want to play games worth playing. And if they feel like they're being emotionally abused, they're not going to feel like the game's going to feel worth playing. You have to make this good. And there will be some players who are going to fall for this. They're going to be like, they're going to fall for the abuse. They're going to have the Stockholm syndrome where they are held captive in this abusive relationship and they're thankful for it. And that's okay, cool, whatever. But there are going to be a lot of people that can see through the BS. And when I say BS, I'm not saying Brawl Stars. Okay, now before I move on, I actually want to apologize to two groups of people, okay? One of the groups of people is to the Brawl Stars team, because I'm sure that I'm saying a lot of stuff here that sounds like it's coming out of left field to the Brawl Stars team. And the second group of people is to the community. I mentioned this in a previous video, but Supercell actually pitched Buffies to me and a few other creators, trusted creators, and we talked about the cost and everything like that. I briefly mentioned this in a previous video, and they told us a cost that was just way too high. It was like way worse than it currently is, and we were like, hey, this is just out of touch. You cannot make Buffies cost this much. and we pitched them on a total cost that we felt was stomachable, is the term. Not like pleasant, stomachable. Like you just barely get it down and you're like, oh, is that gonna come up? No, okay, it's not gonna come up, it's gonna stay down. I stomached that, right? We came back and we pitched Supercell on a total cost that was uncomfortably expensive, but not so much that it felt completely out of touch. And I do want to credit the Brawl Stars team because they set Buffies within the range that we felt stomachable. Not the PowerPoints side of thing, but the total cost, like the 3,000 the 300 gems worth of cost for Buffy. Okay, I know that sounds crazy, but here's the thing. Our feedback was also, in our feedback, we stress how poor the community reaction would be if they required too many PowerPoints. And they really went with too many PowerPoints. The reason why I want to apologize to the Brawl Stars developers and to the community is because when Brawl Stars heard our price point, they actually responded with the official cost of 2,000 PowerPoints and 1,000 coins, and it was within that 300 gem price range that we felt were comfortable, that at least I felt was stomachable, right? The reason why I want to apologize is because when I first heard that, I was really just looking at total resource cost. I was looking at the 300 gem cost at base level, and I was considering the cost from the perspective of a maxed out player, and I didn't really consider the impact it would have on anybody else. I kind of have a weird, twisted perception of playing Brawl Stars because I have so many accounts and I've played so many different types of accounts. And as a maxed player, I just didn't, I heard the 2,000 PowerPoints and it didn't like sound awful to me because I have plenty of PowerPoints to spare on my main maxed out account, or I guess it's not my main anymore, but it's my maxed out account. And honestly, I was just genuinely happy that the total cost wasn't more than 300 gems worth of resources because I was worried that they were going to cost way more than 300 gems. So I told Supercell and I said, hey, you know what? That's within the stomachable range. And really, I just am sorry that I just didn't consider how out of touch 2,000 PowerPoints was. I'm not saying that I'm to blame for Buffy's, like, it's not my responsibility to balance the economy, right? The Brawl Stars team has to take responsibility for their own actions when it comes to balancing the economy because they should be better masters of the economy than I am. But I am sorry that I didn't consider how much the cost would impact more players besides myself. And genuinely, it's not like I was being selfish or anything like that. It's not like I was like, oh, I'm going to have Buffies and nobody else is going to have. No, that's not the case. In fact, if I were being selfish, I would have thought more about the free-to-play experience more because I don't actually play my maxed out account anymore. My free-to-play account is my main right now, and it is the account that I play the most and has been for the past several years now, pretty much ever since I created it 3 years ago. I just didn't think it all the way through. So I'm sorry to the community for not thinking it all the way through, and I'm sorry to the developers for feeling like this feedback might be coming out of left field when you've even pitched the idea to me. So I'm just sorry. Sorry for hating on Buffy so much. When I already told you I thought I could get behind the price. And I can get behind the price, I just can't get behind the currency. If you could choose between buying Buffies with only coins or only PowerPoints, I could get behind the price. It's stomachable. It would address a lot of the issues that Brawl Stars is facing right now. But the 2,000 PowerPoints really it's not stomachable for most players. It feels out of reach. It feels out of touch. And it feels like the new content is not for them. And that means that Buffies are not hype. They're not exciting because they're unobtainable. And the community reaction to Buffies has been crazy. Oh man. Yeah, it's been bad. It's been bad. There has been tons of hate for the cost. Tons of people are upset about and the thing is, I feel like it's become so popular to hate on Buffies that I feel like other aspects of Buffies are getting way more hate than I feel like they deserve. Like, yeah, people are upset about the cost for Buffy, so they're like, yeah, I hate the cost for Buffies, and you know what? Also, I hate aimable gadgets. And I'm like, yeah, wait, no, I like aimable gadgets. I want that into the game. And people are like, oh, I hate the cost for the Buffies, and I hate the rebalancing all the brawlers. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Wait, no. We want them to rebalance all the brawlers. We like that. We like that. At least I like that. People are like, I hate the cost of Buffies, and they're making gameplay too complex. Wait. I like the depth of I like the strategic depth. Let's give them a chance to balance them and make them actually good, okay? Like, come on. There's just so much that I love about Buffies, and it all is just completely overshadowed by people hating on the PowerPoint costs. Like, and that's why this video feels so frustrating for me, because like, I love Buffies. I genuinely love them. I think they're so cool. They're cute. They're adorable. I hate the cost though. I hate the PowerPoint cost. And it just feels like that's the only thing anybody cares about. And it is completely souring the whole Buffy experience. And you know what? There are some people that are saying, oh yeah, this is just the community who's over exaggerating like they always do, right? Like this is what happened with hypercharges, right? Yeah, and now we're past that. Now we're good. We're glad the hypercharges is in the game, at least most people, maybe not everybody, but you know, people are still playing or really liking hypercharges. But the thing is the developers handled hypercharges. Actually, I think they handled hypercharges better. They did things with hypercharges that made things better, okay? They promised a guaranteed hypercharge with every update. We had this special Hypercharge Unleashed challenge, and they eventually got rid of it and kind of changed the way that they release new hypercharges and get new hypercharges out for free, and they added them to special events and stuff like that. But when hypercharges first released, the Brawl Stars team would like, hey, you're gonna get free hypercharges every single update with the Hypercharge Unleashed event. And they also added hypercharges to legendary star drops, so you could actually get some for free. And you know what? Yeah, people did freak out about hypercharges, and a lot of the hype or the freaking out was not as warranted as we thought that it was, because we really did get a ton of hypercharges for free. And my free-to-play account is a perfect example of that. I don't want to spoiler my free-to-play 3-year recap video too much, but I will just say one thing, and that is that I, at the time that I recorded that, was only missing 11 hypercharges out of all of the hypercharges. So I was able to keep up just almost as a free-to-play player with them releasing new hypercharges. And a lot of that was from all the free hypercharges. And they told us we'd be getting free hypercharges. And on top of that, the cost to buy hypercharges made sense. 5,000 coins, it was a stomachable cost. It felt too expensive, but it was within the range of like, okay. I at least understand the 5,000 coin cost. And also, the way to gem hypercharges made sense. They offered these special offers, value packs for brand new release hypercharges at 79 gems for a 5,000 hypercharge. That was a crazy good offer, and they've released that offer with every single hypercharge in the game. That was the best way for you to spend your free-to-play gems. And even if you weren't a gemmer, you could wait for early access offers to directly buy them with gems at a cost that at least made sense. That's 79 gems. I know that that's not like the total cost, like hypercharges should cost 300 gems because or 500 gems. But that's the thing, is that 500 gem cost for a hypercharge, that makes zero sense. It just doesn't. It's completely just out of the scale, right? The 79 gems made sense, and now Buffies are supposed to cost less than hypercharges, PowerPoint and coin wise, like resource wise, but the cost to buy a new Buffy is minimum 149 gems. That's twice as expensive as the value offer that you could gem new hypercharges for. Gemming Buffies makes so little sense from a financial perspective, right? I just pulled out my calculator to do some quick math. It would cost over $150 to gem all of the new Buffies. Like the 18 new Buffies that came into the game, you'd have to spend $150 to gem them. That's outrageous. That is absurd. That's, at least 2 AAA games. It's just absurdly expensive. So yeah, both free-to-play players we could stomach hypercharge costs. We could stomach that as free-to-play players. Even people who are willing to spend money on them, on hypercharges, we could stomach the cost. It made sense. It wasn't like great, but we could stomach it. With Buffies, they have given us 1 free Buffy when you first unlock them, and they did add Buffies to Ultra Drops, so we will get some free Buffies, and they also added Chaos Drops, but Ultra Drops are even rarer than Legendary Star Drops, and they haven't made any promises to consistently give us free Buffies anywhere, and I just don't know that we can count on them to do that. Right? Free-to-play players get 3,000 coins from the free side of the Brawl Pass. 3,000 coins. That's not even enough for you to max out a brawler. To max out a brawler, you need 3,740 power points. So you need to get 740 power points somewhere else, like star drops and other stuff like that, in order for you to max out one brawler a season. And you're able to do that as a free-to-play player. Like I'm able, on my free-to-play account, I'm able to max out 2 to 3 brawlers every single month. So I'm able to do that. But anyway, that's the thing. Now, one thing that they did do, Supercell, we have to give them credit, is they did add one resource key to the free side of the Brawl Pass. And that resource key can be used to increase your total resources by 2,000 power points every single season. But for every season, Brawl Stars also adds a new brawler into the game. That requires 3,740 power points, like I said, which means that we aren't even guaranteed enough power points to buy one Buffy on top of a max out brawler with each season free pass. Which means that, well, okay, sorry. I was going to talk about all the power points that you get from the free pass, but the thing is that we actually get a lot more resources outside of the Brawl Pass than you might think as a free-to-play player, right? Like I know that people say that star drops suck and we don't get anything from them, and daily rewards and whatnot, but you actually get a lot of resources from star drops if you play every single day, okay? So when these numbers specifically talking about the Brawl Pass are going to make you feel way more angry than you actually need to be. And just talking about Brawl Pass resources really is not fair. So let's do something that I think is fair. Let's look at the numbers on my free-to-play account, which has not missed a single day of progression in 3 years. Over the lifetime of my free-to-play account, I've accumulated an average of 7,941 power points every single month. Okay. Let's just round that up to 8,000 power points a month, because that includes progression from 3 years ago as well, which we get more resources than we did 3 years ago. Anybody who tells you otherwise is just is not aware of, they're just, yeah, anyway. We get more resources now than we ever had in Brawl Stars. It's just that there's way more resource dumps to soak up those resources so it doesn't feel like it. But okay, the point is an average of 8,000 power points every single month, okay? That is enough for you to get enough power points to max out one brawler and 2 Buffies every single month. This is before they've added resource keys to the Brawl Pass, okay? So let's be generous and add the 2,000 power points that you get from the resource key and use that to buy the 3rd Buffy, okay? So we're at 10,000 power points roughly each month-long season. That means that based off of the power points that I've earned on my free-to-play account in the past 3 years and adding the power points that we would get from one resource key each season, free-to-play players can expect to max out one brawler to power 11 and get 3 Buffies for that brawler each month and have some power points left over. And by some power points, I mean 260 power points left over each month. And that's low enough that you can't frequently use that to buy like another max out brawler, okay? So assuming you were lucky enough to pull the 3 Buffies for that brawler, which we're actually talking about averages over multiple years of gameplay, so the RNG of the gacha actually doesn't matter here, though we'll talk about the RNG later because it does matter. But that you get enough resources to essentially max out, or enough power points each season to max out one brawler, including their 3 Buffies for that 1 month. That does not sound great. Because here's the deal. That's enough power points for you to just max out the one brawler that they release each month. That means that without buffs to the free-to-play economy, free-to-play players would not be able to max out every brawler in the game for 8 years. But that is for the current 99 brawlers in the game. I am not including the 96 brawlers that would be added into the game in those 8 years, assuming that they continue to release one brawler every month for the next 8 years. So what they've done here is that if they do not buff free-to-play power points in a massive way, they have essentially made it impossible for a free-to-play player to ever max out their account if they don't massively buff the economy or stop making new brawlers. And that is something that I absolutely cannot give my stamp of approval on. At least, again, not without some massive economy changes or the ability to spend coins on Buffies, because we're just talking about power points here. Power points here are the massive bottleneck. We should be able to get enough coins, plenty of coins in that time. I care massively about Brawl Stars. This is a huge deal. The fact that I say that I cannot put my stamp of approval on this, that is a massive thing. I could be wrong, but I don't think I have ever said that about Brawl Stars, because I'm not just talking about Buffies. I'm not just talking about the cost. I mean, I can't put my Kairos stamp of approval on Brawl Stars as a free-to-play competitive game if that does not change. I can't do that. I care a lot about Brawl Stars being competitively viable for free-to-play players. It's actually a huge reason I didn't stop making Brawl Stars content when views were dropping so much for Brawl Stars this year and views for Clash Royale were skyrocketing, because I believe in Brawl Stars and I love that Brawl Stars treats their free-to-play players, or at least has in the past treated their free-to-play players well. I love that a dedicated free-to-play player can max out their account as long as they are willing to play every day for a few years. You can't do that in Clash Royale, and a lot of creators swapped over to Clash Royale because the game was massively blowing up on YouTube. And I'm not blaming those creators for doing that. Not everybody cares about how good a free-to-play, how good a game is for free-to-play players like I do. And like, I get that, I really do. But believe me, I wanted to make a Clash Royale video because it was hype, and my channel started out as a Clash Royale channel. And I also I made an entire dedicated YouTube channel on Clash Mini, and then they moved Clash Mini and reworked it and added it to Clash Royale with something called Merge Tactics. I wanted to cover that. I wanted to do that, but every single time I sat down and thought about making a Clash Royale video, I couldn't stomach it. I got this sick feeling in my stomach. It just did not feel like something I wanted to do. It felt like I would be just chasing views, and I didn't want to do that. But no matter what people say about me as a content creator, like, I'm just not a view chaser. If I was a view chaser, I would have left Brawl Stars a long time ago and started making Minecraft content or whatever. Like, I genuinely love Brawl Stars. I'm here creating Brawl Stars content because I love Brawl Stars. And I may have started as a Clash Royale YouTube channel, but Clash Royale has burned a bridge with me a long time ago, and they're going to have to do a lot of work to rebuild that bridge with me, because Clash Royale is not a free-to-play friendly game. Someone who is completely free-to-play in Clash Royale would never be able to compete at the World Championship level. No matter how good they are at the game, if they don't have all of their maxed out cards, they just can't do it. They can't do it. And over the past few years, Clash Royale has repetitively abused their players over and over and over again in a way that has left me feeling like the game is not worth it for me to play long term, and is not worth it for me to make content on. I'm not adding hate to anybody. Not everybody cares about this like I do. It's okay if you like Clash Royale and you want to continue playing it. Cool, whatever. But the thing is, they make the game more and more pay to win, and the only reason the game hasn't died out, in my opinion, is because the players are too addicted to quit. That's legit. That's the only thing that makes sense for me. Why would you continually play a game where you as a player are not cared about by the team, and the team has continually showed the players that they just don't care about the free-to-play players? They've just continually done that. Like, I care about playing a game that feels like it provides value and worth to me, and I'm not going to play a game that doesn't do that, and anyway, I get it. Clash Royale is really fun. The gameplay loop is super addictive. I'm not saying I'm never going to make a Clash Royale video again. I probably will. And I'm also not saying I'm never going to make videos on pay-to-win games. In fact, I will make videos about pay-to-win games in the future. Probably even Clash Royale, like I said. I think it's actually fine to play pay-to-win games and even make videos on pay-to-win games as long as you call them out for what they are. Pay-to-win games that don't care about their free-to-play players. I did that with Diablo Immortal. I actually really enjoyed playing Diablo Immortal as a complete free-to-play player. And, you know, I made dedicated sponsored videos for it. This is so long ago. But I did that, and people were calling me a shill or whatever. No, I was like legitimately loving the game. I played it for a good period of time as a free-to-play player and loved it. I got a lot of value out of playing Diablo Immortal. I thought it was really fun. And I made some videos about it. And I didn't feel bad about making videos about it because I liked it. And, you know, that's cool. But I also called it out for what it was. A heavy pay-to-win game. And if I ever make a Clash Royale video, that's exactly what I'm going to do. This is a massive side tangent. I'm sorry. It's just like, this is how much I care about Brawl Stars being a free-to-play friendly game. And I don't only play free-to-play friendly games. I actively play 2 games right now other than Brawl Stars right now, and I play them a lot, and that is and I've spent a lot of money on them. There's one game called The Tower. It is incredibly pay to win. It's an idle game that I cannot recommend playing to anybody. It's a terrible game. I'm addicted to it. I find enjoyment out of it, knowing that it's a pay to win game, but I cannot recommend it. Then there's also Old School RuneScape. That is a game that I cannot recommend enough. It's one of the best games I've ever played. I might call it the best game I've ever played, like legitimately. I wouldn't call it pay to win, but it does require a $14 a month subscription to access the full game. The point is, I'm not against pay to win games existing or anyone choosing to covering those games, but there is a huge difference between making a video here and there on a pay to win game or playing a game that's pay to win and covering the game full time like I do with Brawl Stars. Because to me, Brawl Stars being free to play friendly is just super important. It's foundational. I don't know if I could cover Brawl Stars if it didn't continue to feel free to play friendly. Like and that's really scary to say, but like that's how I feel. Oh, I think I would just continually become more and more depressed with my work as a content creator if Brawl Stars continue to feel pay to win. I really do. And I think I would have to move on, or I'd have to just treat Brawl Stars like my day job and just say, I'm just here to make videos and content because I make a living off of it, but my passion's not in it. That would be so sad. That's not where I'm at. I'm not anywhere close to that. I actually have a lot of hope for Brawl Stars' future success as a free-to-play friendly game. Despite Buffies, I think that the Brawl Stars I have trust that the team is going to do right by this. I'm just trying to convey my feelings here because this is really important to me. I did not have a whole lot of money when I first downloaded Brawl Stars. In fact, I had very little money. I had the opposite of money. I had, like, I was a college student making minimum wage at a part-time job with a wife and a kid. I couldn't justify spending any money on any game at all. I literally, like, if I wanted to relax or something, I had to find a free to play game and play it for free and I just searched for the best free to play games that I could play that felt actually worth playing. That's what I did. Even a $5 purchase was just out of budget. I mean, like, and it wasn't even close to being at the budget. Like we had to be way more careful about how we were spending our money. And I can imagine that a lot of you guys watching this also cannot afford to spend any money on Brawl Stars. And I know that it might not sound like I understand what it's like to be a free to play player because I have spent thousands of dollars on Brawl Stars because it's my job and I make that money back through advertisements, sponsorships, and code Kairos. But like, believe me, I know what it's like to be a free-to-play player. And as a free-to-play player, I don't expect games to give everything to me for nothing. I understand that as a free-to-play player, I cost game developers money to run servers and whatnot. I cost them money that is offset by spending players. I get that. But I cannot call a game free-to-play friendly if it is impossible to max out an account in 8 years of playing every day. Because at that point, the game is no longer pay to progress faster. It is literally pay to win. It doesn't matter if you can max out a few brawlers easily, it's still pay to win because the paying players will have more competitively viable brawlers maxed out than free-to-play players who have half as many options available to them. We just had the most competitive Brawl Stars World Championship in the history of Brawl Stars. More brawlers were banned in draft than any event in the past. The brawler choices are incredibly important. You can't tell me that a skilled free-to-play player will be able to hold their own against an equally skilled spender who has more brawlers maxed out. You can't. Because of the snake in the draft format in ranked, the free-to-play player will always be at a disadvantage because there are times when having the perfect brawler to counter your opponent will be the difference between a win and a loss. I know this because having a limited roster is one of the reasons I could not reach masters on my skin lock series. It wasn't the only reason, but I genuinely think that if I had every brawler maxed out available to me, I could have reached masters with less time that I spent trying to play with a limited roster, because having more brawlers maxed out matters in Brawl Stars. And if free-to-play players cannot max all their brawlers in 8 years of playing every day, I just can't call Brawl Stars a free-to-play friendly game. And that means that I can't give it my Kairos stamp of approval to anybody, because instead of going to my friends and saying, hey, bro, you should check out this game. It's called Brawl Stars. It's really awesome. You should play it. It's a lot of fun. No, I can't do that. I have to add this disclaimer to my recommendation by saying something like, hey, you should play this awesome game if you're willing to spend money on the game or you don't care about being competitive. I hate that so much. I don't like it. So I'm calling Brawl Stars out for some changes. We need some buffs to our supply of power points as free-to-play players, flat out. Or even better, we just need more flexibility with how we unlock Buffies. Or we need both. Let us spend coins on Buffies. Don't make it. 2,000 power points is so ridiculous. It's out of touch. And if we don't get it, players like myself will become progressively more and more upset with the game. And I can guarantee you that we will see players like me leave the game. That's not a threat or anything. It's just the truth. It's just the way it is. People want to play games that feel like they are worth playing long term. And if you don't treat free-to-play players well enough, free-to-play players will stop feeling like the game is worth playing long term. And then your paying players won't have anybody to beat other than other playing players. And it'll all of a sudden just become about who spends the most money. And then it will no longer become a free-to-play friendly game. It will just be a pay-to-win game. like the tower, which I play, which I can't recommend you play because it's a pay to win game. It feels good at start. Don't get hooked like I did, or you might spend too much money on the game. And you know, if Brawl Stars wants to make the choice to become a pay to win game, that's their choice to make. And that is, you know, there are games that make lots of money and have no shame about being a pay to win game. But if you decide to do that, don't pretend like free to play players have any place in your game, because you know they don't, and you don't care about them. I'm not saying that the Brawl Stars team doesn't care about free to play players. I'm just saying, like, if you make a pay to win game, just be honest about it. Just tell people this is a pay to win game. If you want to compete, you have to spend money. That's a lot more honest. It's a lot more open than trying to trick free-to-play players into thinking the game is free-to-play and then really pulling the rug under them and making them realize that the game's not for them because new Buffies cost an absurd amount of power points that nobody has except for maxed out players. Okay, well, let's continue here. I have some good news. I'm not actually that worried about the Brawl Stars team following through with buffing the economy and providing more free Buffies than they've told us. I'm a little worried they won't do it to the extent that I hope that they will do, but okay, here's the deal. I am naturally an optimist, and here's the deal, okay? There's this scale that I felt has been so true. People consider themselves to either be a realist or an optimist, right? This is like this scale where people think that they're realistic and then people think they're optimistic. But the thing is that this scale has two other terms, and on the realist side is pessimism, and on the optimistic side is naivety. And I think that all people find themselves somewhere on this scale. And there are people who call themselves realistic that just look on life with a pessimistic outlook that not everybody has to. It's just like, it typically tends to be what realists do. They look at life like it's a glass half empty, and that leads to them feeling more negative about things than they need to. But on the other side of things, you have the optimists that look at life positively and they're excited. But in reality, that also leads to them becoming naive and being taken advantage of and being needlessly hopeful when there's not a reason to be hopeful. And that both of these are like, optimism is good, realism is good, pessimism is generally bad, and naivety is generally bad. But everybody kind of falls themselves on this spectrum kind of a thing. You could do like a cross scale thing, and it doesn't matter. Anyway, the point is, I am a naive optimist, and I'm proud to say it. I just genuinely am a trusting person. I like to look at the actions that Brawl Stars' team in the past to correct their mistakes, and I like to believe that they're going to continue doing those things. And it's, for whatever reason, it's easier for me to forget the ways that they have screwed the people over, and it's easier for me to remember the ways that they have done good. It's just who I am. I'm an optimist. Okay, so this isn't me trying to spin anything or anything like that. It's just, I remember the good the team has done and I trust them. And maybe a big reason for that is that I've met a lot of the Brawl Stars team and I have a good relationship with a lot of the developers on the Brawl Stars team. And I like them as people and they want to do a good job. They do, they genuinely do. And I trust them. I've got that good relationship with them. And here's the deal. You know the advice to trust actions, not words? I think that is sound advice to live by. And for me, I look at the Brawl Stars developers' actions and how they have done things in the past, and I think that genuinely, I think we're going to be fine. When star powers were added into Brawl Stars, here's what happened. The community blew up saying that they were too expensive and unbalanced. And then the Brawl Stars team balanced them to be a good fit, and they buffed the game's economy to match the cost of star powers. Same thing happened when gadgets were released. The community blew up saying we were too expensive. They were unbalanced. We don't need this. This is too complex. I don't like this. And now gadgets are actually pretty cheap, fairly balanced for the most part. Pretty much everybody that plays, I would think, likes gadgets, right? Same thing happened with Gears. Well, actually, okay. Gears released and the community blew up saying they were expensive and unbalanced, and Gears are still really bad. But they did buff the economy to make Gears not as egregious as they were, but they still suck. But the thing is, their cost actually feels fine now, and at least in comparison to when they were first released. And man, people don't remember how bad Gears 1.0 were. They were pretty awful. But they increased free coins that we got, how many coins we got for buying the Brawl Pass, and they just buffed the economy overall. When Hypercharge is released, though, this is exactly what happened. The community blew up saying they were too expensive and unbalanced. And while I do think that some Hypercharges need reworks and some could be rebalanced, I genuinely think that they're actually in a pretty good spot. And guess what? In the past 2 years since Hypercharge is released, I have unlocked all but 11 Hypercharges on my free-to-play account. And while I did purchase some of those, either with free-to-play gems or coins, a majority of my hypercharges were unlocked for free via star drops or special events. And I know that a lot of people still think that hypercharges are too expensive, but we got way more free hypercharges than anyone is expecting, and they did buff the economy in a big way. And they also provided special events that allowed us to reach or to get the hypercharges that we want. And I got all of those hypercharges. It's not like my goal was to have a hypercharge on every single brawler in the game. No, my goal is to max out all the brawlers. I got all those hypercharges while also maxing out an insane number of brawlers. I think it was like 40 brawlers in the last 2 years or something like that I've maxed out on my free-to-play account while also getting their hypercharges. It's crazy. So anyway, the thing is while I understand people being upset about the cost of Buffies, I am hopeful that the developers will make improvements to address the issue. I think that there's another issue that I'm more concerned with, and that is that they knew that this was going to make players upset, right? They cost so many power points. I just wish that they would have gotten ahead of this problem in two ways. First, by increasing guaranteed power points in a more direct way. And second, by directly telling us that they do in fact have plans to buff the economy in ways to reach the resource demand for new Buffies. In something more than just a tweet by one of the developers, right? Like something official, like, hey, we're going to see how this all lands within the community, and we do have plans to buff things. We just want to get a good idea of how Buffies feel in the hands of millions of players before we make adjustments. That's all they had to do publicly. Yeah, people would have still been upset. We would have had a lot of outrage, but it would have at least given us some way to to calm things down and be like, hey, let's chill, right? Because right now we just don't know what's going to happen. And yeah, we did get one resource key that was helpful. And yeah, we do get some other buffs to progression via chaos drops and more tiers in the brawl pass and stuff like that. But where are the power points? Where are the power points? You added this absurd PowerPoint sync, and it's so off the scale that players will never be able to max out their account for free ever because of how off the scale it is for the amount of PowerPoints that we're actually actively getting. I just can't help but feel like they could have done more to improve the situation so that we could at least defend the PowerPoint cost for Buffies. The truth is, though, is that unless your account is nearly maxed out, PowerPoints are too scarce of a resource, and 2,000 PowerPoints for a single random Buffy poll means that most players feel like Buffies just aren't for them. Oh my gosh, I've been recording for an hour and a half. I know the video's not that long yet, but I've been recording for that long, and I still have so much to talk about. It's getting to be lunchtime, but don't worry, I can do hard things. We're powering through this. Let's keep talking about this. I'm gonna talk about the randomness from the gacha. Let's just do that now. This might be a hot take. I don't hate the gacha as much as you might think. I have this viewpoint of Brawl Stars of my goal is to max out the account. I don't view Brawl Stars as my goal is to max out the brawlers that I like to play. That's not how I view it. I just don't. And so for me, the gacha doesn't really matter that much because I know eventually I'm going to get all of them and I'm going to max out my account. That's how I look at it. I just don't look at Brawl Stars through the lens of I only want the Buffies for the brawlers that I actively play. I want them all. I want them all. And so the gacha is just like this unnecessary delay. And that feels weird. And I understand why Supercell wants to do the gacha. I understand why the community hates the gacha. I really do. It just, and you know what? It does feel bad set up the way that it is, mostly because of the insane PowerPoint costs, okay? I was talking to a friend who said something that really resonated with me about Brawl Stars' economy. They said something along the lines of, Brawl Stars continues to be in this weird middle ground where the game isn't monetized with gacha, but they seem to want it to be monetized with gacha instead of like a direct purchase shop. But most of Brawl Stars has a way to directly purchase everything in the game. So now Brawl Stars is in this awkward middle ground where they kind of have the worst of both worlds. And they either need to choose to be a direct shop for everything or use gacha for everything, because being halfway between both just doesn't feel great. There's a reason why Brawl Stars is in this weird situation, and that is because Brawl Stars at one point did decide we are completely removing gacha from the game and we are going strictly deterministic. They got rid of mega boxes and boxes in the game. They added the Star Road. They added guaranteed progression from every single aspect of the game, and you knew what you were going to get 100% of the way, and you could purchase everything directly from the shop. And I really thought that was going to be an awesome update. And what ended up happening is a lot of people quit the game because it wasn't as exciting anymore for them, and the community just begged for gacha back. So Brawl Stars caved. They were like, okay, clearly people don't like this being deterministic. Clearly they want the gacha. So they added gacha back. This is just such a sad part of Brawl Stars' history. But the thing is when they added star drops back into the game, the gacha felt meaningless because the economy was balanced around deterministic rewards, which meant that gacha like wasn't good enough. You didn't get enough resources from it for it to be good. Here's the thing. Gacha feels amazing when you have the chance to get something amazing frequently enough to keep you coming back for more. Like, does that make sense? Gacha's hype when you get exciting drops just enough to keep you coming back. It's a very like addictive, gambling type of feeling where you just enough. But the thing is because there was so much progression coming outside of gacha, they just couldn't make gacha rewarding frequently enough. Best example here is getting a legendary brawler from a star drop. It can happen. I don't remember the exact drop rate for it, but like based off of how many star drops you get a year and the chance to getting a legendary brawler from a legendary star drop, the drop rate was around like once every 2 or 3 years. And the thing is though, is that when it happened and you got a legendary brawler from a legendary star drop, it didn't feel great that you got a legendary brawler. It felt great that you hit the crazy rare thing, that you got the crazy rare legendary brawler just because it's crazy rare. That's the only aspect that made it feel great, because you could also get plenty of legendary brawlers from the Star Road, and you got legendary brawlers frequently enough that it was like, oh, cool, I got a legendary brawler. I already have a lot of legendary brawlers, so this isn't that big of a deal. And so gacha never felt great. It just hasn't felt great. And there's really only 2 ways for for Brawl Stars to fix this. The first would be to completely rework Brawl Stars' entire progression system to be either gacha or entirely deterministic, which they would go with gacha because that's what the community wanted. And can you imagine them removing the Brawl Pass, all of the deterministic rewards, and just giving you a bunch of like buff star drops? Like, that would be such a headache. So many people would be upset about it. The backlash of Brawl Stars doing that would just be crazy, especially now that the game is 7 years old since it was released globally. The second way that they could fix this would be to add a new feature that was massively expensive to the point where gacha actually became exciting again. Oh wait, that's Buffies. You see what's happening here, right? So I could see why Supercell decided to go with gacha with Buffies, because it could produce some hype moments. But even with the current system, it really isn't that hype, because gacha is hype and exciting when it is cheap enough for you to pull frequently so that you still get those hype moments. But that's not what we're getting here. Right now, when you pull from the claw machine, you have a 1 in 18 chance of getting the exact Buffy that you want. After that, you've got a 1 in 17 chance of getting the Buffy that you want. Then you have a 1 in 16 chance, and then a 1 in 15 chance, and eventually you are guaranteed to get the Buffy that you want. And I'm not saying that Brawl Stars should make it so that you can get duplicates. That would be disrespectful to players, especially because of how cost prohibitive they are. I like this sort of pity rate. I like it, but it doesn't feel like gacha. It doesn't feel exciting like it does in gacha games. Gacha is exciting when the cost is cheap enough you don't mind wasting resources in hopes of getting something really big that you want. It's risky, but that's what makes it exciting. Even with a guaranteed pity rate, it's still exciting. That's just not what's happening with the Buffy claw machine. They're not cheap, they're crazy expensive, and I like that you get something with every pull every single time, but it's not fun. There's no risk. It doesn't feel like you get, there's no way for you to get like an extra rewarding, like super rare thing that you wanted, because you're just guaranteed to get them all. It's just like, honestly, it's like buying something that you actually want with extra steps that feel unnecessarily frustrating because it costs so much to get every pull, and because you have to get all the Buffies that you don't care about in order to get the ones that you want. It's kind of the worst of both worlds. It kind of is. The one thing that I do like about it, though, is the fact that there will be multiple claw machines. So I don't think that people really understand this too well. Right now, we have one claw machine with 18 Buffies in it. Next time they release more Buffies, their plan, or at least what they've told us is their plan, is to add a second claw machine with all their Buffies in it. So you get to choose between, okay, am I going to pull from this claw machine, or am I going to pull from this claw machine? And you kind of have to pick and choose which brawlers you're going to want to do or want to go for. That's like when I think the Buffies when the gotcha aspect of the claw machine will be kind of interesting for even free-to-play players, if the cost actually made sense for the PowerPoints, but anyway, it doesn't make sense right now. So either way, it doesn't really matter. And we'll see if it gets better in the future. Okay, let's talk about the actual design of the Buffies that we got, okay? And this is where I actually like Buffies a lot. Some people don't like that were the specific reworks that we got for specific brawlers. Some people do. Some people feel like certain Buffies are too strong. Some people feel like they're too weak. And it's really hard because like they're so expensive that you want them to be good and strong, but then if they're not strong enough to be worth buying, then it feels stupid. And if they're too strong though, it's like way too like game breaking OP, and that's not cool. I've seen a lot of people say that they want to be able to like only equip one Buffy versus all three. Like there's a lot of different design aspects about Buffies that are very much like very opinion based. And I understand that people have different opinions on this, and that's cool and whatever. And I don't want to make anyone feel like I don't think that your opinion has value if you disagree with me at all, because your opinion matters and you should share your opinion, even if it's different than mine. My opinion of Buffies is that I actually really like them. I like the way that they are. I love that Brawl Stars is taking the time to rework all the brawlers. I love the aimable gadget. Is every Buffy that we got perfect as it is right now? I don't think so. Some of them feel kind of pointless. Like genuinely, it's like, oh, that really didn't do very much. Like, you know, and then some of them feel way too strong. I don't like that. But the thing is I'm okay giving them some time to rebalance things. Brawl Stars has always come back to rebalance things for the most part. There's actually some aspect. One reason why I actually wish that Brawl Stars would have waited to do Buffies until after they focused on addressing some of the previous hypercharges in the game. Like Pearl's just the best example. Her hypercharge, it pushes enemies away, but then it lights the ground on fire. So enemies are away from the fire. So like there's some situations like that. That's such an obvious like, oh, this is not a well-designed hypercharge. I wish they would have gone and redone a lot of them instead. And I wish they would take more time to kind of polish up features and aspects of the game that needed to be polished up before they started working on Buffies. But the thing is I think that eventually they'll be balanced in a way that makes sense, and they won't know. Like, here's the thing. A lot of people are like, Brawl Stars should just release everything balanced. Like you should just make them all good, right? It's just so impossible for them to do that. They can't go and commission 1 million people to go play test Buffies in order to get the balance right. Like that would be an absurd cost when they have millions of players who will do the playtesting for them. And it doesn't matter if they have pro players or content creators like me play testing stuff. I'm not saying that I play tested these Buffies beforehand, but I'm just saying like they can have the most skilled players in the world come and play test stuff and they will still miss stuff because there is nothing. Like no matter how skilled you are at playing Brawl Stars, your skill level will never, ever be anywhere good at figuring out the most effective metas compared to millions of people playing it for one day. You can spend hundreds and hundreds of hours trying to get the balance perfectly, and then on day one, it won't matter. Like people will figure stuff out. I don't think that people understand this, and they give Supercell a lot of flack for bugs and balance changes and stuff like that it's not deserved because it's impossible for them to know everything. And you think that something is going to be obvious. It's just not. It's just not. Just look at my placements for new brawlers. When I say that a brawler is going to be either too strong or too weak, I'm correct maybe like 60% of the time. And I feel like I have a good grasp of how good a brawler is. And I don't come up with those rankings by myself. I have a semi-pro player Moxie, who we go together and we discuss it and we come up with a placement that makes sense. Like two people that really love Brawl Stars and play a lot of Brawl Stars, and we're only right 60% of the time, you know? Anyway, the point is like give them some time to rework the current Buffies and stuff like that, and I'm cool with them. They can release Buffies that are too strong and too weak and rebalance it. My hope though is that they rebalance it faster than later, because waiting too long is just such a pain in the neck and gives the community emotional whiplash. It does. Now, there are a couple of takes that I wanted to talk about that people have mentioned. One of them being you should only be able to equip one Buffy instead of all three. You basically have one Buffy slot, right? This is an idea that I see a lot of people talking about. I understand this take. And I get why people want it. I also don't think that Supercell's ever going to do this. I think the sad truth is I think that they've learned their lesson with gadgets and star powers. The truth is that if you can only equip one, then people only care about half of your work, right? Like if every single time they release a new brawler, they have to make 2 gadgets. They have to make 2 star powers. And because they have to make 2, but people only use half of them. People only care about half of them. And yeah, it's cool to be able to swap back and forth between like, okay, this match, this gadget's gonna be better and this star power is gonna be better. I like that. I really like that so much. But I'm not justifying Supercell's decision here. I'm just saying it means that they have to do double the work to reach the same amount of effort, right? You have to work twice as hard for the same result. And that is that people only use one of it. If they make 3 Buffies, but you can only equip 1, then they have to do 3 times the work and people will still only care just as much. And that also means that if their goal is to increase an economy sink that they can then fill with buffs to progression later and hype events, if they do that, they then have to make Buffies 3 times as expensive to get the same value on the economy that they're looking for. I'm not saying that makes sense to us players or anything like that, but I'm trying to speak game design to game developers who may be watching this video, right? Like, anyway, it's just like, yeah, like I just get why they would want to do it. Like, it's just not going to happen. I just don't think it's going to happen. And honestly, for me as an individual player, I don't even know that I wish that you could only equip 1. That would mean that you would only really care about getting the best Buffy for every brawler, most likely a hyper Buffy, and anytime that you got a Buffy other than the best, it would just feel like a disappointment. And you would be pulling from the gacha, and it would feel even more disappointing to pull from the gacha. And yeah, I think that the idea and the reason why people come up with this idea of only wanting 1 Buffy equipable out of the 3, I think it comes from 2 places. One of the places being that they actually like the idea of having to choose between 3. And the second place is that they don't like the idea of how expensive it is to get 3, so that they wish that you could essentially have a maxed out brawler by only spending the amount to get 1 brawler or 1 Buffy. I think that's where it mostly comes from. I think that this is where people's feedback is, and I would rather that Brawl Stars really focus on just making Buffies more accessible than wasting development resources on developing abilities that people won't use because other ones are better than the ones. Like, you get what I'm saying? I don't know. I would just rather have 100% of the expensive Buffies that I buy to provide value, I think. I mean, maybe this isn't like a great take. I don't know. It's just, this is my gut feeling. I just don't feel like equipping only 1 out of 3 really is the solution. Even if enemies, and okay, there's another aspect where people are like, well, yeah, if people only have to equip 1 out of 3, then it's way less confusing, right? Like, you don't have to remember all the different abilities that they have. I understand why people say that, but like, the more I think about it, I think that that's actually not accurate. If enemies only have 1 Buffy equipped at a time, I actually think that would be more confusing because you kind of have to figure out which one they have and remember it throughout the match, as opposed to like, oh, if somebody has a hyper Buffy, I just know what their Buffy is going to be doing the whole time. I still have to figure out which gadget and star power you use, and you do have to remember all the different interactions with all the Buffies, and that is a lot. But whether people have 1 equipped or 3 equipped, you still have to have everything memorized. Them having 1 equipped is not the same. It doesn't make it easier. It just means that they only have 1 equipped, and you still have to remember the other 2 that they're not using, because you're going to be playing against another player who's going to be using the other 2 another time. I don't know. Anyway, I would just rather know, oh, this brawler's maxed out, and then know how to play the maxed out brawler with all 3 abilities. If you think that you would rather have brawlers have just 1 Buffy equipped than 3 Buffies equipped, that's cool. That's a fine take. I understand it. It's a personal preference, I think. I just don't feel similarly, and that's okay. And just, yeah. Also, I just don't think that the developers are ever going to do it. I don't think so. There is one take that I think is a bad take, though. Okay, and I don't like saying that people's opinions are bad, but this take is just not a good take. And that is, oh, I would have rather just had power 12. Really? Oh, man. That sounds so bad, because here's the deal. I understand the argument that Buffies cost more than a power 12 would have. I understand that. Yes, we as players would have to save up fewer resources per brawler if they just added power 12 than if they added Buffies. That's the only element of this argument that I think warrants any credibility. Just imagine you just maxed out your account. You've been playing for 4 years as a free-to-play player. You've never missed a single day of progression. Your account is finally maxed out. You have the accomplishment of saying, boom, my account is maxed out. I did it. And then Brawl Stars says, oh, we're going to add power 12 to the game. All of a sudden, that accomplishment of you being a free-to-play player and having gotten a maxed out account is just taken away from you. This is what's happening with Buffies, right? Your accomplishment of having a maxed out account is being taken away from you. It's just happening slower because they're only releasing Buffies for 6 brawlers at a time, but it's still happening. The difference here is the value that you get. If Brawl Stars has to add some sort of a power progression or a resource sink into the game, with Power 12 being added into the game, you get nothing. You don't get anything. You don't get anything by them adding Power 12 because literally all the same interactions still apply. A maxed out Shelly is going to interact with a maxed out Spike the same way before the update and after the update. The only thing that Brawl Stars does with the Power 12 is they add a massive resource sink and they don't give you anything for it. It is incredibly disrespectful, in my opinion. This is why I hate stuff like this with Clash Royale. This is one of the reasons why I think that Clash Royale just does not handle their players very well. They say, oh, well, people need something to work towards, and that's true, but adding power into the game without giving something back to the players is so disrespectful to the player's time, in my opinion. I think it's just one of the worst things that you can possibly do because a player used to be maxed out and now they're not. And the only difference in gameplay wise, oh wait, there's no difference gameplay wise. They just have to spend more money and they just have to continue playing in order to become competitive again. And it makes the game very pay to win, right? The difference here with Buffies is that we as players actually get something out of it. It provides value. It requires developers to actually make the interactions different and it adapts the gameplay. It gives us something. An aimable gadget is something we can do. Attacking differently during a hypercharge changes interactions. A maxed out Shelly interacts with a maxed out Spike differently before and after the update. We get something as players. In Brawl Stars has to add these resource sinks. They have to, because the truth is that players will lose interest. There are some players who will lose interest into continuing to play the game once they have a completely maxed out account and there's nothing really for them to work towards. Like at that point, the only thing you have to work towards is gaining trophies and doing higher in ranked and continuing to earn resources so that you can continue to have a maxed out account. Like games as a service, you have to have something to work towards. And so yeah, Brawl Stars needs something like Buffies into the game, and at least Buffies provide value to players as opposed to like a Power 12. So yeah, I'd rather have Power 12 is a take that I think is not a good take. I would rather have every brawler have a Buffy into the game immediately, but obviously that's just unrealistic. I don't want everybody to think that I just hate Buffies because I don't. I think their cost is out of touch, at least when it comes, not the total cost, but the PowerPoint cost is out of touch. But the game needs more progression, and I think it does. And this is just way better than adding Power 12 and calling it a day. Long-term players need a reason to continue playing and invest in their resources. Refreshing brawler kits is something that I love. Making gadgets aimable, I love this. I love hypercharges impacting attacks. The cute little keychains even I love to a certain extent. Do I think that they're like the hypest thing or whatever, like worth increasing the cost because of it? No, I don't. I think that they should essentially just be treated like gadgets and star powers where you just, boom, you have it. Okay, cool. And move on. Right? Like, I don't know. I think that Brawl Stars might be wasting resources on making them super cute when most players don't really care about that. But also maybe I'm just wrong because they are cute and I do like them. I don't know. Maybe I just wish that they were more easily visible in a way that didn't make the gameplay confusing. I don't know. But I do love the cute little keychains. I think it's cool. I think the game really needs something big and new. Is this more exciting than hypercharges? I think that on like the gut reaction is it's not as exciting as hypercharges, but I like that they are going to impact the game in a bigger way than hypercharges. Like gadgets, star powers, and hypercharges being completely different. Like I think that's cool. I like it. I like Buffies, and unfortunately, I think they just missed the mark with the PowerPoint cost, and I understand why people don't like the gotcha. Oh boy, this is one of my longer ones. Man, if you've watched this far, I really want to know what your thoughts are. So let's do #Nerfies in the comment section. If you want to share your thoughts, and that's the way that you can prove to me that you watched this far so that I know that you've heard my thoughts and then you can respond to my thoughts or whatever. So you don't have to put #Nerfies just because you reached the end of this video, unless you want to, that's cool. But I'm looking for opinions of people who've actually watched the whole video. And I'm probably just gonna ignore people who don't use #Nerfies because that means that they came in here deciding I'm just gonna say my thoughts without actually listening. And that's fine, people can do that. But I wanna have a discussion here. I don't want to be a wall that, like, I don't want to talk to a wall, right? You get what I'm saying? People are going to have their opinions, and what I say isn't going to change them, and I don't need my opinion to change them, but I want to at least be heard. Anyway, whatever. Hashtag Nerfies is the comment, or the hashtag to use, so that I know that you actually watched the video, and I'm looking forward to hearing and reading all of your thoughts. Okay, well, let's go. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.